Something that impacts everyone everywhere in Pennsylvania is education, right? Our kids deserve a fair shot at being educated. And I want to pass it over to you all about what is the legislature doing to make sure every kid in every school gets the same chance to succeed by working hard. So if each of you could give a little snapshot of what each of you are doing either in your districts or through your committees on that.
Starting here again.
You're on the education committee.
Yeah, I'm on the education committee. And now I know how to turn on a microphone. Yeah, so look, this is a priority of our caucus. You know, everybody's saying, when are we going to get a state budget done? When are we going to get a state budget done? It's because the Senate just simply won't do their job and fully and fairly fund public education, public transit, not make the investments that we need in order to keep this Commonwealth strong, quite frankly. We know that our system of funding public education in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania is unconstitutional. The courts have told us that time and again. We have made record investments in education in every county, all 500 school districts, over $1 billion in the last budget. We're going to continue to fight to make sure that happens. But the other thing we're going to do, and I think this is something that will really resonate in rural areas, is plug the holes in those local budgets, in those school budgets. Cyber charter schools are ripping off Pennsylvanians to the tune of billions in dollars. They have so much money, they don't know what to do with it. They're buying real estate. They're giving away gift certificates. They're burying money. Look, those are your dollars. People in your communities are paying more. They're getting their school taxes right now, right? I hear about it all the time. They come up and show me how much it's increased. We can plug that hole. We can put billions of dollars back into the hands of local taxpayers by holding cyber charter schools accountable. Make sure that they have the same transparency requirements. We cap it what the actual costs are, not the excess. Look, we are going to insist on doing this. That school choice, we're not talking about taking away school choice. We're talking about right-sizing the costs, because right now they are absolutely ripping off the taxpayers of Pennsylvania. That's going to resonate in all 500 school districts in all 67 counties. Sorry, I get a little passionate about it.
So in addition to the structural funding that we're working on, one of my priorities, because I'm also the House Chair of the Hunger Caucus, I have legislation that would provide universal school meals for all K-12 public school students. And I think, you know, now as we're seeing food insecurity increase more than it was during the pandemic, before the pandemic, in the last 2 years, the number of food insecure Pennsylvanians has increased by the combined populations of Altoona, Williamsport, Harrisburg, and Lancaster, which is almost 200,000 new people food insecure, and way too many of them are children, and way too many of those children, the only meal that they can rely on is the meal that they get at school. And so we should be providing breakfast and lunch for all of our students. We require them to go to school, and yet food is the only thing that we means test, that you have to prove that you're poor enough to be able to eat. We don't do it with textbooks, we don't do it with paper or pencils, and we shouldn't do it with food. And so that has been a major priority of mine, to make sure that we feed every single kid in school.
I'm going to say that because I like to see everyone. So before I became a state legislator, which I never planned on becoming, I also never planned on becoming a music teacher in school. So I taught school. So I know how very important school is. And I taught for many, many years. And the point, I want to make a few points with you. The public school was designed to give every kid a chance to succeed, to give every kid a chance, no matter what side of the tracks you come from. If you work hard, you can become whoever you want to be. And I know that in your families and in rural Pennsylvania. We have so many kids that have become professionals, business owners, they become lawyers, doctors, nurses, whatever. What Emily said and what Rep. Takac said about your cyber charters, that's robbery. Now, I'm going to give you a couple numbers. I represent Wilkes-Barre School District. Wilkes-Barre School District was one of those schools that launched that lawsuit against the state to prove that they were being underfunded. And I mean underfunded by millions of dollars, okay? So your public school can provide cyber education for between $2,000 and $4,000 per student. The cybers are charging $10,000, $12,000, $15,000 per student. And the excesses that Representative Takac was talking about, it's not thousands of dollars. It's not hundreds of thousands. It's millions, hundreds of millions of dollars. They are buying now property. Their administrators are making $500,000, $700,000. Unbelievable. That's your money. That's your tax dollars. I have no problem with private schools or charter schools or cyber schools, but they've got to play by the same rules that your public school does. Public schools can't advertise at a football game about their school. What do I mean? Cyber charters buy advertisement on the big boards about their schools. They pay for trips to those games for the parents of those children. Public schools can't do that. That's your money. So what I'm trying to say to you is your public school is our future, because those kids are the future. Got it? And that's why we have to make, all we want is something that's fair. Because they won that lawsuit, Wilkes-Barre area has been given X amount of dollars, and it's going to take 7 years in order to fully fund all those schools that have been underfunded for decades. So that's definitely one thing we're going to fight for is fairness, and we're going to definitely make sure that all our kids, all your kids, have a chance to succeed.
Yeah, I'll stand up too. So I went to public school all throughout my career. Went to, actually, Sean grew up across the street from Greenberg, which is a K-8 school. I went to K-8 school, public school. Then I went to Central in Philadelphia High School, actually with Senator Chairman Sharif Street as well. We both went to Central public school. We got a high quality public education. That's why my dad moved, emigrated from Pakistan, so he could have his kids get a high quality public education. And that's what he did. And I ended up getting my PhD, I ended up serving the legislature, becoming a nurse practitioner. Public education. We have to make sure that we're investing in these kids. But you know that there's a big difference to what you see in some of the suburbs of Philadelphia and what, no shade, right? But what they have in Philadelphia, what they have in Center County, what they have in so many of our districts, where the public schools, there is such a disparity between the public schools where the property taxes are high and the other public schools, and the quality of the education is so disparate. So you had kids that are learning in environments, we're trying to learn. We got lead, mold, asbestos, roaches, other pests that they have to deal with. You have teachers that are spending their own money to buy additional things because they don't have enough in the school. They have to decide whether they're going to get what, because the blinds fell down, and after at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, the sun comes in, whether they get new blinds or whether they get an algebra teacher. These are the decisions the schools are making. So we have a decision, the Commonwealth Court, that decided that we have a duty to constitutionally fund our public schools. And in this budget that the Senate just passed, they are actually not keeping up with that court mandate to fund our public schools. So those kids are actually going to fall back, and those schools are going to fall back. So that's exactly what we did when we passed our budget. We have record historic funds. So the historic funds we passed last year in last year's budget, we passed that in this year's budget and then added on hundreds of millions of dollars for public schools so kids can get a high quality public education using public tax dollars, right? That's where that money should go. They should go to public schools, not private schools. So that's what we're fighting for, and that's actually one of the reasons why I ran for office. And I'm just so proud, I just have to say, to serve with you all, because these folks here are the ones that have been taking those votes to fund our public schools fairly, so that people will move to Pennsylvania because of the quality of the public schools. That's what happens in New Jersey, by the way, all the way in New Jersey. That's what happens in California. People want to go to those schools because they're the best in the nation. Why was it like that in New Jersey? Because of a Supreme Court decision in New Jersey that said they had to fund the public schools equitably. So that's what we're fighting for, and that's what we're passing. And hopefully the Senate will do the right thing and do their jobs.
So I won't be redundant. You've heard. I just want to share with you what I'm doing locally in my district. So I have begun a youth advisory council that's comprised of various students from the various school districts that I represent, because it's very important to empower our young people. We need to start training them to be civically engaged, to learn how to advocate for themselves. And in addition, I also meet with my superintendents quarterly as a collective, and we go from school district to school district, because it's important for us to share best practices and figure out how do we share resources and learn from one another. Because I don't know if there's this problem here in this county, but in my neck of the woods, we have a growing unhoused youth population. Right? And one of the things that the Reading School District in particularly, which I represent, has created, they took a basement storage room and turned it into this beautiful space where youth who are unhoused can come shower. They get nice robes and slippers. They have these large lockers. They have areas where they can study. There's even a kitchen so that we can give them that temporary relief while we can. And one of the beauties of me meeting with my superintendents quarterly, some of the other superintendents got to visit this space, and their wheels started turning, because they may not have the same amount of unhoused youth, but they have quite an amount of youth that they want to care to or help, right? And so one of my other superintendents is now looking at his school building spaces to figure out how he can transform a space to provide some type of relief to some of our young people that unfortunately are unhoused. So just wanted to share that. I also wanted to say something else. Do you know how to follow the work that we're doing in the General Assembly? No? So if you Google PA General Assembly, do you know you can subscribe and you will be emailed what we're working on, what legislation we're working on, and it gives you an opportunity to also kind of email us, let us know what you think, what you support, what you oppose. Because I think, again, now more than ever, we need to equip our community with the tools so that they can be more proactive and put more pressure on their elected body. Right? So super important that, for those that have smartphones, if you want to when you go back home, PA General Assembly, you can subscribe, put your email in, and then share that with others, especially our young people, because we need to now start calling each member of the GOP Senate to let them know how important it is to pass this damn budget already, because it's well overdue. So I just wanted to let you know that. You can activate, you can help us, right? Carry out what we were elected to do. So thank you so much.
Thank you. I do want to give a shout out to a true champion of education, public education, but also fair funding. Our Democratic chairman of the state party, our Senator Sharif Street. So, thank you, Senator. I'm going to be very brief with my remarks. You heard Chairman Pashinski talk about how there was a ruling that the way we fund education in the state was unconstitutional. Do you know who ruled it unconstitutional? The courts. Our Supreme Court.
The Commonwealth Court.
The Commonwealth Court. Sorry, I apologize. But I just wanted to talk about how important it is that, thank you for correcting me, by the way. I'm on the Supreme Court. Yeah. But just that ruling that showed that our state education system, the way our state funds it, was unconstitutional, was ruled by our courts. It shows you how important our judges are. Again, vote yes.
Thank you.